What is blamelessness? I've read through and prayed and meditated upon and studied Psalm 101 several times. And every time I have done so, even for this particular reflection, I realize how far short of blamelessness, that is purity, that I have come and have lived. The idea of blamelessness is central in this particular psalm. David speaks of blamelessness 3 times in this psalm. It's not the only idea, of course, but it is an important one. In view of Psalm 89, which expresses that righteousness, justice, love, and faithfulness, all of the same package, you cannot separate one from the other, are the foundation of God's throne. And upon that basis, the commitment that David carries out or says that he's going to carry out in this psalm makes sense. And yet we know from David's life that he himself fell short of this psalm, for he even conspired to have one of his key leaders murdered, and he had adultery with that man's wife, out of which a child was born. But note all the commitments that David makes: a commitment to praise, a commitment to live with integrity in the home, a commitment to pure conduct, a commitment to the right relationships, a commitment to unity, that is, dwelling with God's people in righteousness together. David's question, "When will you come to me?" echoes Exodus 24, where God says that the one who comes to him in worship will receive God's coming to him and his blessing. And yet there is a tension in this psalm, because even as that is the truth, 2 Samuel chapter 6 records a situation in which Uzzah, one of David's colleagues, was struck down for his irreverence because he treated God's separateness, his holiness, irreverently. This psalm puts, if we're honest, all of us to shame, because none of us can live up to its commitments perfectly. There is only one who can, that is Jesus Christ, the righteous. There is only one who did, that is Jesus Christ, the righteous. And that even though we make such commitments, perhaps, or as we read this psalm, we say, yeah, I'd like to do that. Yeah, I'd like to make that commitment. Ultimately, in some way and in some fashion, we will fall short. And we will need to realize that there's no way that we can live up to the purity that is required to enter God's presence. And so we need to look to one beyond this psalm who has fulfilled that kind of commitment for us. And it is Jesus Christ, the righteous, the only one who has lived up to such commitments perfectly. It is only in the Lord Jesus Christ that any of us can be found blameless, as you see mentioned here in Philippians 1:9. Also in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 8 and 9, and also in 1 Thessalonians chapter 3. Because Jesus Christ is the one who fulfilled this psalm perfectly, he and only he is the one who was blameless and is blameless. And yet those of us who have put our faith in Jesus Christ by turning from sin and surrendering to him as Lord in simple faith, we can have the confidence that it is the Lord Jesus Christ who will make us, bring us, present us blameless before God the Father. It is not because anything we have done or can do, not because of any commitments we can make, even though such commitments are honorable and we should strive to live up to such commitments. It's only because the Lord Jesus Christ himself fulfilled such commitments. And in him and only him can one be found blameless.